Good evening, City Council. My name is Melissa Schweiger, and I wanted to talk to you tonight about the Rancho Cucamonga Animal Shelter's summer event, Bark in the Park. For those of you that are unaware, this event is when the shelter brings selected dogs to a Quakes game and introduces them to the public. Due to other commitments, I was unavailable to volunteer at most of these games, but I was excited to be able to help out at the August 27th game. I emailed Barbara Hansen, the volunteer coordinator, to let her know that I would be able to help out. Imagine my surprise when I received an email the following day stating that my help was not needed and that all the spots were filled. I need to pause here and ask you, is this the type of shelter you are proud to be running? A shelter that turns away interested volunteers. You, along with me, have seen and heard the shelter's fancy presentations stating how important volunteer help is. And I am here to tell you as an active volunteer that this is simply not true. I am not ignorant, and I realize only certain pre-approved dogs are able to participate in these type of events. But with 150 dogs available at the shelter, how could the shelter not be able to find one more available dog for a willing volunteer? This just shows how your shelter is willing to do the bare minimum and nothing more. And I have a screenshot showing that on August 27th, there were in fact 150 dogs available. A mere 3 hours after receiving the email stating that my help was not needed, I was sent another email saying that I could come and help out. I was now confused what with the two conflicting emails, and after emailing Barbara Hansen again, I was told another volunteer had canceled. Ultimately, I volunteered in the Bark in the Park that night, and it was a great event. The public enjoyed bringing their dogs to the game, and everyone loved visiting with the shelter's 9 dogs. Yes, you heard me right. Out of the shelter's 150 dogs, 9 were deemed to have the appropriate characteristics to attend this event. 9 dogs is 6% of the shelter's population. How can you even consider that your shelter is doing everything possible for its animals? 9 lucky dogs were at this wonderful event while the rest sat in their cages and waited. I was able to participate in this event only because someone canceled. Imagine how nice it would have been if the shelter was willing to bring as many dogs as willing volunteers. As a volunteer for the shelter and a former resident of the city for 28 years, this just makes me mad. I want a shelter I can be proud of, one that will do everything possible to get its animals adopted and values its volunteers. This shelter isn't it, and with the exception of Bill Alexander, all of you are willing to sit and do nothing. This needs to stop, and myself and the people behind me will continue to spread the word until you finally start to listen.
Followed by Dana Keithley.
Hello, Council and tax-paying citizens of Rancho Cucamonga. My name is Allison Kreider, and I'm a semi-active volunteer at the animal shelter where I volunteered for the past 7 years. This past Saturday, I attended the shelter's No Dog Left Behind event, which the shelter canceled due to heat, but then said volunteers were welcome from 9 to 11:30. Why not just say the event had been shortened due to heat, which is understandable, instead of discouraging volunteers to come by saying it was canceled? What is not understandable is that there were so many dogs that hadn't been walked all week long. If the shelter is thriving, as other volunteers have said, where are the volunteers? We were struggling to pick and choose which dogs to walk in the short period of time we had before it got too hot out. When it got unbearable, we started taking dogs into the play yards to let them play in the pool and hose them down. However, we were soon told by staff that they needed the yards, so we had to put the dogs away. Can you turn that on, please? One dog that was lucky enough to make it out that day, but had been very lucky in previous weeks, was a dog named Rune. This poor senior has only been walked 4 times since he came into the shelter on July 18th. As you can see, there he is. That was at our event. There he is, getting walked once. There he is not getting out at all. There he is not getting out at all. One of the volunteers I was there with was able to get him out on No Dog Left Behind, but I wonder if he will get walked this week or even next week. Unfortunately, this is a common thing for dogs at the Rancho shelter. Imagine not walking your dog for weeks at a time. Probably not hard to do. Some people don't even walk their dogs at all. But imagine leaving your dog in a 3 by 8 foot kennel alone for 24 hours a day, not walking it for weeks, and not even letting it outside to go to the bathroom. Many of these dogs are potty trained and hold it for as long as they can, hoping to go outside. A compassionate and caring director would encourage as many volunteers as they could find to come in and help these animals. But volunteers are not being maintained. Between January and June of 2014, the shelter held 11 volunteer orientations, which 76 volunteers attended. However, the recently requested volunteer hours, dated up to August 2014, show that there are only 64 active volunteers. This means the shelter is losing more volunteers than they are actually training. What a waste of time and money. I will leave these charts with you, Council, and we can also provide the actual shelter hours from Volgistics if you want them. As we've pointed out before, it would appear the 5-hour minimum no longer applies, as all of these yellow highlighted places with the red X's show. Volunteers just come and go for whatever times they please, don't come again, and then come back. As you can see on this spreadsheet, several volunteers did not meet the minimum monthly requirement and still returned to volunteer. So based on these records, it seems justifiable that I can go back and continue to walk dogs whenever I have the time to do so, and not just once a month. At the end of the day, that is what is going to benefit the animals. And isn't that what a compassionate staff would want? Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, members of the public, my name is Dana Keithley, and I'm a former employee of the Rancho Cucamonga Animal Shelter and also one of the dismissed volunteers. With the Furry Friends Festival approaching, we know that you've been getting letters, emails, and probably calls of support from certain volunteers at the animal shelter. I bet I could even name those individuals who have written on behalf of Director Fincher and her staff. These are likely the same individuals who once praised the very volunteers they helped get dismissed once Ms. Fincher became director. At one time, the volunteers all shared a common goal towards helping the animals and ensuring the best for them, not just what was best for shelter staff. Let me read an example. This is an email from volunteer Terry Jacobs regarding a storage bin she had donated when Joe was the previous shelter director. She said, in an effort to avoid unnecessary problems and conflicts between staff and volunteers, I'd like to donate a locker, which will be kept at the center. Dana will have control over it and can share it with whomever she chooses. I'm sure it will be noticed by staff and volunteers, but it would be helpful if you did not bring it to anyone's attention. She goes on to say in a private email to myself and to other volunteers, I don't want to give anyone else the opportunity to use it. It's a shame, but I just don't trust anyone. Yet she trusted me enough to give me control over the lock and who could use it. However, once Director Fincher came on board, Ms. Jacobs claimed I couldn't be trusted, and her sister even got up here at a council meeting and offered to keep donating money in order to keep myself and other volunteers out of the shelter. Do you really think that the animals benefited from that? How about when volunteers were concerned about exposing the truth of the dogs that the volunteers could easily work with? And if you can please show this on the screen, I had made a Facebook post about a dog that was killed that I was working with. And a number of current volunteers, most notably Sandra Grimley and Nancy Mendoza, had remarked how sad and upset they were about what was going on. They asked, how could they help? This was just mere months before Director Fincher took over. Yet about 3-4 months later, Nancy Mendoza was on Facebook calling the dismissed volunteers whiny babies. And this goes on with several other volunteers, and I'll leave the emails with you so you can see that. But again, at the end of the day, keep in mind that these were the same volunteers that also walked past the crated dogs, the dogs that were being crated for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. The crates you walked by, Mr. Steinnorth, the crates that you walked by, Mr. Gillison. Again, keep in mind, we want to do what is best for the animals. These are the same volunteers who would rather receive the accolades than see the dogs get walked every day. And Allison Kreider, Melissa Schweigert have said over and over again, there are dogs there that are waiting week after week to get out. Wouldn't a caring and compassionate director and staff want to see all those animals get out for a walk? But instead, they would rather fight to keep volunteers out than fight for the lives of the animals that they claim to care about. And we ask our citizens to think very hard about the decisions they're going to make this November. And if for more information, please check out our website, thatgroup.info. Thank you.
Followed by David Dykstra.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and citizens of Rancho. My name is Andra Gilbertson, and I'm a current volunteer dog walker at the Rancho Cucamonga Animal Shelter. Shelter killing is a leading cause of death for healthy dogs and cats in the United States. It doesn't have to be. That is a tagline for no-kill consultant Nathan Winograd's new film, Redemption, based on his book that launched a revolution. This book was the inspiration for the original group of concerned citizens that came to these council meetings and worked tirelessly to get the city to terminate the animal services contract with the original county-run shelter. Because of this, the council voted in 2005 to become a no-kill shelter. Most of you who are sitting up there today were there for this transition and wanted to do what was best for the city's animals in our community. You hired Nathan Winograd, who wrote you a step-by-step plan to get to no-kill. Yet 8 years later, you are nowhere closer to that goal. In fact, the words no-kill has been scrubbed from all of the shelter's literature, including the annual reports and the strategic plan. Mr. Winograd's new film highlights shelters across the country that have reached the no-kill goal, and without spending more money or by killing to get lower numbers. Rancho could have been featured in this film because this council at one time had the dedication and the vision to create a no-kill shelter. Sadly, it never came to be because Mr. Winograd's plan was never fully implemented, and the city hired the directors and staff from high-kill shelters to run Rancho. And so instead of being an example to shelters across the country, Rancho is considered to be a failure. And those that defend the killing of healthy and adoptable animals often cite Rancho Cucamonga, saying that if a well-off community that takes in a third of the animals that county shelters can't make it to no-kill, then no one can. When in reality, Rancho never had it right once Winograd left as consultant. Redemption will be playing at the San Pedro International Film Festival on October 11th. We encourage all citizens who want to see it to better the animals and for our community. In fact, we would like to see the leadership in the city watch this film in order we can get back on track to get a no-kill for Rancho. That group has purchased 4 additional tickets to the screening, and ideally, Mr. Mayor, you should attend, Mr. Gillison to attend, and also the shelter director, Veronica Fincher. I have more to say.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
David Dykstra.
I'm Susan Keithley. I am a dismissed volunteer. I volunteered at the shelter for 6 years. Can you show this on the screen again? Andra did not get a chance to tell you that we have purchased 4 tickets, and we're hoping, Mr. Gillison, you will go, Mr. Mayor Michaels, you will go, and Director Fincher. And one other council member. There is always room for improvement, always. You owe it to the animals to see what can be done. We need a no-kill shelter. Director Fincher and Joe Policello, they are kill directors. And it doesn't matter what John Lyons thinks. This is the best shelter in San Bernardino County. That's not saying anything. He's never volunteered there. He only comes to pick up his dog who is constantly running away. And one has to wonder why. So we have seen firsthand, we have had animals killed right from under us in retaliation. This is unnecessary. So we have the 4 tickets. We'll be happy to send them over to you if you'd like to go. We have got to get this settled because we're going to be coming back here for years, as long as it takes. And this revolution, it's grassroots. It's going to work eventually. People are going to stop thinking so old school and open their eyes. These animals do not have to suffer. And even if they have to sit in a cage, we can go walk them. We can bathe them. We can love them for whatever time they have until this is turned around. And the volunteers that are writing you letters, because we know they are, this is what they do. They call us liars, but they never say what we're lying about. They are never specific. They say how great it is, but they never name exactly what greatness they have brought. It's the same status quo. You were trying to make your shelter look so good on 1 or 2 events a year, but those animals are sitting for weeks and weeks not getting out. How is that humane? Yes, Rancho's a great city, and I love this city, and I'm proud of this city, and it breaks my heart that I cannot go back into that shelter and comfort those dogs. But one day, maybe we can all work together. I hope so. So please, please go and see this. We can turn it around. Thank you.